Name is Danielle. My name is Danielle, and I have the privilege, pleasure, and honor of serving as co-president of the International Enneagram Association Great Lakes / anywhere there is a lake chapter with the legend, the icon, Reverend Clare Loughrige. Wow. She's an Enneagram harmony and spiritual direction school principal, and an activist for justice. And so that's why we harmonize so well. And so Clare and I are so happy that y'all are here and grateful for your presence. Before we get into sitting at the feet of one of my favorite comedians and Enneagram experts, Dr. Jerry Wagner, I really do think that he should just do like a Monday at the Improv, just maybe seasonally. Before we get into his wisdom and his punchlines, I would love for us to just become aware of what is going on in our chapter and what's going on in the world of the Enneagram. First thing I want to share with you is our newsletter. And Clare is going to be the Vanna White of our experience here. Just like on Wheel of Fortune, we're going to have Wheel of Learning Opportunities. And so she's going to share her screen and look at our beautiful newsletter. If you are interested in receiving this very gentle monthly update of what's happening in our chapter and what are some of the emerging thought leaders in the space of teaching and moving the conversation of the Enneagram and its wisdom forward, we encourage you to sign up for this newsletter. I will drop an email in the chat that you can sign up for. Clare, do me a favor and scroll back to the top of the newsletter. I want to just look at some of the events. We have the Enneagram Institute of Ohio that has multiple offerings, and those links will be in the chat as well. The Wounded Healer Retreat by Clare and Scott Loughrige and Mary Darling. Clare and Scott are so good at creating spaces for activists to get rest and to repair and recover before they go back into the world of advocating for the rights of the vulnerable. And so I highly recommend you just go to their website and click on any experience to learn from them. I really am excited about the Wounded Healer Retreat and how these light workers will receive some light into their own wounds. The Crossroads School of Spiritual Direction, the next 2-year cohort begins January 2024. That may sound far off, y'all, but we're going to blink and it's going to be January. And so I would highly recommend you start thinking about your spiritual direction future and act quickly, because the year is going to go short and then January is going to have 174 days like it always does. So definitely the link will be in the chat for you to learn more about that. There is an online Enneagram group that meets monthly with Rosemary Hurwitz. And Rosemary Hurwitz is like a sparkler. And then what comes off the sparkler are the gems of wisdom. And so you're going to have fun while you're learning. And studies show that when you have fun while you're learning, instead of it taking 100 times to learn something, it only takes 17. So just know that when you learn from Rosemary, you're going to be having so much fun that you're going to just absorb it all. And then there's some IEA accredited training and certifications that are happening from our chapter. I took the Enneagram Spectrum training, and I love the deeply psychological basis that I was able to get a good foothold in. I'm a science nerd, and so being able to have science-backed psychological, behavioral psychology, and even some neuroscience to accompany the accuracy of the Enneagram and the ways of human behavior was so helpful, so that when I teach my corporate clients, thanks to Dr. Wagner, I have a little science bag that I can pull out so that people can really respect what they're learning if they need that kind of data, right? And so definitely recommend that training. Again, I'm a student of Dr. Wagner, so is Clare. And from what you learned today, you're going to be chomping at the bit to learn more from him and be able to say that you are a baby psychologist because you learned from him. Because I consider myself very much a baby psychologist. I'm not a grown one, but I'm a baby. I have got a baby certification. And you say baby psychologist so you don't get tripped up, in the weeds, right? So I highly recommend that. And then I am teaching I'm currently in a certification program now that is going really, really well. I can teach you how to teach the Enneagram to anybody in any context. We're going to meet twice a week. And you know, one of the things that I love is teaching folks how to not only understand the Enneagram, but I also teach learning and teaching modalities, methodologies, and I also teach you how to translate the Enneagram for any industry that you're in. I also teach a diversity and equity, inclusion and accessibility certification that looks at how to combat systemic oppression from your true essence. So I'll drop all these links in the chat. I'm so excited about what we got going forward. And I'm going to hand off the mic to Claire, who is being essential with her words. And so, Claire, would you do me the honor and everybody else the pleasure of introducing our legend, our comedian, Dr. Wagner?
Well, I think you did so well, Danielle, that, you know, I wouldn't want to overdo it and have Dr. Wagner get, you know, his head too big, because that would not be good. We laughed today because we said that Danielle and I were feeling very incompetent with what was happening on the back end of all of this. And so if you know anything about the competency types, they are 1, 3, and 5. And so we're counting on Dr. Wagner to hold up the competency part of this training. So many of you know that even as I showed you EnneagramSpectrum.com, Dr. Wagner was one of the first people to learn the Enneagram in the United States and began to teach it. And so from just a bunch of scribbled notes that happened at Loyola University, there has been just an ongoing, vibrant community that thousands of us have learned with Jerry. And so we're welcoming him today to talk about where our authority comes from. And so this is going to be a treat because in case you didn't know it, you do have authority. And but maybe at the end of it, you'll say, well, I think that I might want to start enacting that authority, or I'm going to use this authority and tell Dr. Wagner he's full of soup about that. So, you know, we're going to be here learning, and as always, the humility precedes Dr. Wagner in letting us tell him what we really think. So welcome, Jerry, and thanks for being here again with us. And if anybody ever says 5s are not generous, I have an argument.
That's right. I share my soup with everybody. That's right. Well, let me thank you for inviting me, and thank you for coming, Jerry. Okay. I want to set this up, and as I'm setting it up, I'm thinking, yeah, that's what 5s typically do. I spend 40 minutes setting it up, and then I got 2 minutes left to actually do it. But the setup is this. We got all the 9 types in us, the 9 points. And when I first learned the Enneagram, basically we were saying, well, learn your type. Okay. Now things have shifted a little bit, and now it's like, well, forget about your type, learn about all 9 types, or especially the types you're least familiar with. So you got all of this in you. So, get in touch with it. So we've got our own source of authority, but we also have 8 other sources of authority. So as we listen to each other, we can see, oh yeah, I can come out of that place. So my great insight was figure ground. So figure would be, like, look at my nose. I don't want to look at your nose. Just look at my nose. So now my nose is figural, and all this other stuff is in the background. Now I say, oh, look at that lovely, why, is that a spectrum chart in the background? So now that's figural, and I'm in the background. So figure ground. Because I have been allowed to be a co-host, I now show off my technological wizardry. I show you these typical, can you see this? These figures? Yeah. So I say, okay, now look at the vase or vase. And you say, I see it. That's figural. Now I say, look at those faces. And you say, oh, I see that. And now the vase becomes background, and the faces are figural. Here's this, an old lady looking out towards us. Here's her nose. And here's a chin of a young lady looking the other way. So the figure ground. So I'm thinking, okay, our main Enneagram type, stop sharing. I've shared enough. That's enough. Okay. Main Enneagram type becomes figural, and the other 8 points are in the background. Or a situation might arise and another aspect of us becomes figural, comes to the foreground, goes to the background. So we got both. And now we're going to learn, well, where do these sources of authority come from in each of the styles? And why am I doing this? Because I was talking to somebody one day who was saying they were having trouble influencing their partner. What a shock. And added to that is the person identified as a 6. So I'm thinking, well, 6 is I have trouble with authority figures and with authority. And so I asked the person, well, where does your authority come from? And they didn't know, not surprisingly. So then I said, well, where's my authority come from? Where does anybody's authority come from? And, it's like the Pharisees asked Jesus, where does your authority come from? By whose authority do you say this stuff? He says, well, I'm God, and the Pharisee says, well, does that make you special? So what? So where does your authority come from? So I made up some stuff. And then I actually asked different types, well, what do you think about this? So I'm going to, as I go through the 9 types, how many are there? I'd like to ask you, if you are a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, if you could say, well, here's where I think my authority comes from. So I'll give you some ideas first, but then it would be really nice to, because I love to collect data, get some more information. So I looked up, what does authority mean after I did all this? And there's about 20 different definitions of authority. So one of them is the power to influence. Nice. It's a convincing force. A power of winning devotion or allegiance, get people to come on your side. Or it's an emanation of spiritual or moral force. Interesting. So if you just take a minute, where does your authority come from? So I was thinking about ones, and I thought, well, where does authority come from? It comes from their knowing that they're right. They're blessed with knowing that they're always right, which is a nice thing to have. So there's a certain power to righteousness. Put on the breastplate of righteousness, not self-righteousness, but righteousness. And one say also, it's morally right. Our authority comes from that. We have this moral rightness about us. What else did they say? Another one said, I don't define my source of a power as being right, but having authenticity or integrity. Doing what I see as correct. So the integrity of the ones. One with a 2 wings said, I have the ability to see around corners, to know which right action will best serve the greatest good. Nice, 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 nice. Another one said, defined himself as a realistic idealist. What the hell that means. So they're able to see the end, the purpose of something. And here's an interesting thing the person said. When we're coming from a centered place, meaning one, meaning the serenity, equanimity, sobriety of my harmony triad, that's a heretical notion, this harmony triad, they can see the meaning or essence of things and speak about what they see. So there's this clarity and discernment. here's another thought, no extra charge for this. I was talking about virtues the other day. And it might be that we get to our virtue through the virtues of other styles. Do not go directly. So I'm thinking, okay, as a 5, my virtue is non-attachment, detachment. No, don't favor that. But if I go to the 7 and 8, the kind of the old Enneagram figure, maybe innocence, sobriety. If I can have the innocence, the sobriety of a little child, maybe I can be non-attached. So you might think about that for yourself, in your own miserable life. If it's hard to get in touch with your own virtue, maybe go there through your stress or balance point or harmony point. They'll kind of get there indirectly, get some help. Okay, the ones talk about the clarity and discernment that they have. Okay, so if any of you are 1s or any of you want to make up stuff for the 1s, could you chime in, unmute yourself? And if you're a 1, where does your authority come from? Would you say? Head, heart, gut?
I see Lene leaning in.
She's going upside down. There you go. Anybody want to add something to where the 1s get their authority from? Can people unmute them?
Can you guys hear me? Because I lost my screen.
Yeah, where are you?
Lene,
Okay,
and I'm a 1.
okay. What do you have
Just-
to say for yourself?
Well, just listening, there's a lot of resonance in there, but when we decide, I think that's the challenge for the 1 is the good that we are seeking this right action. We do just go there. The question and the pause comes, wait, is this my own defined sense of goodness? Or is it actually God's goodness? That's the work of the 1, but there is something in us we don't question. We know very definitively, this is what you do. So it is from within. I do think it's instinctual. It's in my body way more than it's in my head.
Yeah.
You just do it because you have this assurance. And it's individual. It's also directing with groups. It is a very internal authority.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I would say.
Say a little bit more about that assurance. Where does that come from?
Yeah. Gosh, I don't know how to express it other than even from the time I was really young, the understanding that an authoritative thing, like it's up to you. It is literally up to you to influence the group or to make the right decision. And it is very internal. It's not like it's not like we're out there waiting to be told what to do. I don't know. I'm thinking of Martha, and I'm thinking of her authority at the moment was, listen, Mary can't just sit around there while I'm doing all the work because she shouldn't even be hanging out with the dudes, right? Like I'm thinking of Martha had this authority that was like, well, here's what you do to host the most well-respected rabbi. And it's this internal thing. Like Martha didn't even question that.
Yeah. All right.
And just like at the end, when she's chasing Jesus, when Lazarus died, it was like, hey, I knew that if you had been here, none of this would have happened. Like that came from within her.
Yeah. I didn't read it somewhere, or 6 is,
Nope.
some authority didn't tell me.
Yeah.
Or I would quote Freud or Jung or Adler or anybody else I could think of, but it's external as opposed to, well, I say this. I know this is the truth. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And then you got to discern, is it coming from my personality, my ego, or from my authentic self, my true nature, my divine essence?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think a 1 can go there until you tap in to these other areas of the heart and the mind, because it is such an instinctual thing and it feels so right. You are convinced that it is the ultimate right.
Yes.
Until
right.
later it's exposed, like, wait a minute, your right it's not the right for everybody.
Oh.
You
Oh,
know, and
yeah.
then that's very surprising to a one. It's like, well, wait a minute,
Yeah.
I'm so convinced
Right.
that is the right, the capital R right. It really takes me back when it's like, well, I'm so sure that my right is everybody's right. That is a hard place for a one to realize.
Mm.
It's a dying to self of, wow, my way is not the only way.
Ah.
Opening, because it is such a core thing, you don't even question it.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, and then that's kind of like you're going over to the 7 too. Well, actually, there are a lot of right ways, not just one right way. It's right for you.
Right, which is
Yeah.
a great invitation.
Yeah.
And just the retreat of the 4 to go a little more internal and even question where that comes from, that the willingness of the 4 heart to go,
Mm-hmm.
gosh, I might be wrong. There's more than what, there's a
Yeah.
depth there that requires getting out of the instinct.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I would think that if you're up in your head, some people might be there. I mean, it's easy to change ideas. Well, I thought this, now I think that. But those gut reactions, boy, if they're off, that is kind of scary. Ooh.
Right.
I really counted on that or trusted that. And now I find out I misjudged.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Leah.
Sure.
So we can come back, but let's talk about 2s. I want to make sure we get everybody in. And the 9s are saying, you're not going to get to us. And yes, I will. I will. Yes, I will. So 2s. So I thought, well, 2s, where does their authority come? I think it comes from love. Love for the other person from their empathy, nurturing, emotional experience. So I said all that. And so now 2s have responded. And they say, well, my authority might be accessed in altruism. When I truly take myself, my need for appreciation, my hope of reciprocity. It's a big word for 2s. My hope of reciprocity, I'll say, out of the equation, I can fully lean into the purest elements of my ability to nurture others. So coming from the high side of the 2. I give you this quote at no extra charge from an advice columnist. If you're a 2, all unsolicited advice is self-serving. That's a great line. All unsolicited advice is self-serving. All right, back to the 2s. They say, it comes from people knowing they matter to me. That's that love. And another 2 says, I often see the person more clearly than they see themselves. And then points out, this is not always well received. Okay. But my wiring is to be helpful. So where does your authority come from? I suppose it's when 2 say, I know this is good for you. And you say, especially if you're an 8, don't tell me what's good for me. I'll decide that. So do we have any 2s who could add a little something? Where does your authority come from? Any 2s in the crowd here, the congregation?
They must
Or
be out
any,
helping people.
yeah,
They're all out helping someone.
there probably are. Would anybody like to speculate then on where 2's authority comes from?
I'll chime in.
Yes,
I'm an Enneagram 2,
yes.
and I just actually this morning had a really interesting experience with a friend there was a situation I stayed in for longer than my instincts were telling me to stay in it. And I needed to actually go and apologize to this friend for not listening to myself. And I had to really think about like my motives for that conversation. Is it because I want to be the one to steer this person in the right direction so that then they say, oh, wow, I wouldn't have seen that if it weren't for you. And I just owe you so much, you know? And so having to find this space of, as a two, being authentic and honest about what I'm noticing, what I'm observing, what I'm intuiting, and the boundaries that I need to make for myself around that. You know, that was the honesty I needed to bring to the conversation. And then the response of the person, which every two wants this response, is like, well, what should I do? What do you think I should do? So I was like, here's where I end, and you have the authority, and you have the right to decide how you proceed from here. I'm just telling you what I feel and am noticing and intuiting here, you know, working with my harmony triad. And you have the authority to do what you feel is best for you. But now you have the information that I can offer you as someone who loves you and cares about you. And man, that felt great. It actually felt really great to not tell them what I thought they should do.
Wow.
So
So you're sharing your awareness, sharing your experience, sharing your thoughts, and then it's up to them. What are they to do something with that or not do something?
yeah. And I think it would be such a false sense of authority to say, you know, here's what I think you should do. Because now my adrenaline is rushing from having this opportunity to have a heart-to-heart moment with them and be heard and received and validated and affirmed. And then also I get the opportunity to say, and here's what I think you should do. But I found that a greater sense of groundedness, like, and that's how I'm hearing the word authority, is just like firmly planted. You know, there's a piece to that word for me when it's happening in a healthy way.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it actually felt a lot more authoritative for me personally to just refrain from giving that advice.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
So as you're talking, I'm making up many things here, and one of which is I think of twos and other styles of having kind of porous boundaries. So it becomes not quite clear who's responsible for what. Are you responsible to make me happy? Am I responsible to make you happy? You feel sad, I'm sad. Who's sad here? So
Right.
maybe the responsibility is I'm responsible to share with you what's arising in me.
Yes.
You're responsible to take it in and do with it whatever you choose to
Whatever
do.
you want.
So who's responsible for who?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So threes, we got threes now. So I thought, oh, well, where do threes authority come from? From their competence. And actually, so three said, yeah, they admit that they're good at what they do. And their actions arise from their care for others, so a little two-wing. Some three said their authority comes from successes that build on one another. And as they achieve, they become more confident in their success and their ability to organize things. So where does your competence come from? You know, I can get things done. That gives me authority to speak. So anyway, what do you think? What would you add to that?
Is there another three besides me that would like to speak today?
I'm a three. I just jumped on because I just got out of another meeting. So authority for threes. My name's Sherry Fisher, by the way, and I am a three with a two-wing. Jerry, do you want me to jump in?
Please.
Okay. Yeah, I think my key word is efficiency. I look at my life kind of as a Tetris game, and the pieces are falling down the screen into place, and I'm trying to put them into place as efficiently as possible. I do get a lot done. I've had several people say to me things like, you get more done by 7 a.m. than most people get done in a whole day. And it sounds like bragging, but it's more observational of, I have a high energy level. I can see possibilities. I love to work towards those possibilities, and I like to engage other people to do that. I will say on some parts I can exhaust other people because they're going, wait, slow down, because my brain thinks so quickly. But I do think, like what you said, just getting things done and being efficient is a place of authority. But just as there's a gift, there's also the curse side of that too.
Like, yeah, I can get things done. I can do that, getting things done. You know, I'm also thinking, because I've got to hear from Claire, who will speak for the rest of the threes in the world. Now, what was I saying? I just distracted myself, damn it. I just totally lost it. Oh, I remember. I've never thought about this until today, so I'm glad I came. Is it okay to give a little crumb to our personalities? Like we're saying, okay, you get rid of your personality and just act solely from your essence. You got to be pure, clean, authentic, original, blah, blah, blah. Or is it okay to say, you know, that was kind of helpful if you're a 2. And so now your personality says, oh, good. I'm wired to be helpful. Thank you. Or a 3 says, you know, I got a lot done today. And your ego says, you bet. Wow, that was pretty good. So maybe it's okay to, you know, our personality helped us get organized and efficient. So we give a little nod. Thank you. And then come back to our true sense. Anyway, I'll think about that. Claire, anything more to say about 3s?
Well, I think the word that came to me was privilege.
Ooh.
And of course, that's a double-edged sword, you know, and so there is always a question for me. Am I going to do this right now because I have the privilege, or do I give that privilege to someone else? So there is there is that discernment piece for me where I let the 6 ask me, is this yours to do, or is that just out of privilege? And do you want to give that privilege to someone else? So privilege, go ahead, analyze me. I could say so much more, but go ahead.
No. I'm reaching for my dictionary to look up the meaning of privilege. Say a little bit more about that. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, so I'm aware of it in the spaces where I work in, you know, with the vulnerable and those who are victims. And many times I realize that even though I am a person who is a justice activist, I get to go home to a safe neighborhood.
Yeah.
So I could say many things about something, but I want to release that privilege, even, you know, so here you put me on the spot. I wanted to give my privilege to another 3, but you still said, Claire, I want you to say something. And so 3s have that need to discover if it's really theirs to do or say or show up and shine, or do they move into sacred backdrop and give the privilege to another person.
Or I wonder if another part of that would be like each of the types are privileged to show off a certain aspect of human nature or divine nature, as opposed to, well, ain't I hot? I'm really right, and aren't I? Oh, I'm loving. Oh, I'm wise. Oh, I'm effective. You know, and efficient. Isn't that wonderful? As opposed to, I'm humbled that I have a privilege to have that aspect that I can share or give. I don't know if that's what you're saying, but I like that.
Yeah, I like the way you're framing it up, because many times when 3s are doing their internal work, can almost slip into darkness in order to not be seen as wanting to shine.
Yes. So yeah, kind of a combination of well, don't get a big head about it and don't feel bad about it that you're efficient, but it's a privilege that you have that ability, that skill. Nice.
Yeah, I'm not that efficient, but I
Yeah.
can perform and make it look like I got something done.
That's a privilege to be able to do that. Not all, not all of us can. That's right. That's right. All right. So
Well,
fours, this is good. Thank you. It's good stuff. All right, we got to talk about fours. So I thought, well, where does fours authority come from? It comes from their depth, their deep feelings, and fours, their authenticity. I thought those kinds of things. And so here's what the fours had to say. Well, I think pardon me while I make a mess here. I think my authority comes from my values. All right. And my authority comes when I feel I can express things in a way that opens other people to receive a different, more nuanced, and more harmonic view of reality. Authority is a form of inner sight. That's nice. Eyes to see something different, and its roots run deep, not shallow. All right. So the four is able to be outside the box, and it'll help us see things a little bit differently. That now, as I'm making this up, like the poet makes the ordinary extraordinary, and the extraordinary ordinary. So we see things the way we never saw them before. And it's nice. That's where their authority comes from. Another four said, yeah, it comes from my emotions, but from my willingness to go there with people into the darker places where others fear to tread. Nice. This is from a chaplain. So that's true. Fours are able to take in our feelings, whatever we're afraid of. Fours, come on in. I can handle that. My authority comes from my sense of authentic truth, from my divine humanity. Mm-hmm. And it comes from my identity. So that's interesting. So fours are, who am I really? So it comes from their identity. Yeah, a four with the three wings said my discernment of having others' best interest at heart. My authority comes from there, and my three wing gives an efficient way to do things, influence people. So the fours of authority. As I'm saying it, it might be something like, I've been there. Where's your authority come from? I've been there. So any fours that would kind of want to chime in. Set the record straight, because once again, we're misunderstanding you. So help us understand you. Any fours?
So yeah, I'm a four.
Yeah.
I can say some things.
Mm-hmm.
I'm Kelly.
Mm-hmm.
That all resonates. A few things came to mind for me. Authenticity, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Vulnerability.
Oh.
That was a thing that came to mind. My own vulnerability, my willingness to go there about my own self.
Okay.
Tends to create a space of influence. I mean, people listen when you tell the truth about yourself.
Yes.
Also, just telling the truth in general, my BS meter is pretty high. We're not, if we're not going to tell the truth, then let's just don't use words.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, so I think being able to hold space for people in the truth, whatever the truth might be.
That's nice. So hold space for people in the truth. You got a little resonance with the 8 there too.
A little bit.
Tell it like it is.
Yep.
What are you here for? Tell the truth. Mm-hmm. Okay. That's nice. All right. Thanks, Kelly.
Yeah.
Any other fours? Any other things you could add to that? It's great.
I'm Sarah Gable.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of, in relating to people, authority comes from empathy, because when people feel your empathy, they're much more likely to listen to you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a teacher, and when I talk to a student and that student feels that I'm not against him, I'm with him, and I have some understanding, then I get much more cooperation than I would otherwise.
Yeah.
Because I think it means something to people that they feel understood, because the 4 wants to be understood.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And yeah, that's right. So people are willing to talk to you if you indicate to them that you're willing to listen to them. You that empathy. Yeah. So taking their point of view, walking in their moccasins, all those kind of things. Yeah. Okay. Let me make sure I get everybody in here. So 5s. So I immediately thought, of course, where does my authority come from? Knowledge. Well, I read about this. So for 2 or 3s, it comes from what they can do. At 5s, it comes from what we know. And other 5s have said, yeah, my authority comes from knowing things, having knowledge, wisdom, data, research. Like I've done research on this. My authority comes from there. Another 5 said knowledge. What else is there? Mm-hmm. Somebody else said, I sit between the head and the heart. So my authority comes from both intellect, book smarts, cognition, and a deep knowing, intuition, heart knowledge. And I thought about whose name I cannot remember, who talks about the wise mind, which is a combination of the head and the heart. She works with kind of borderline folks. Oh gosh. Anyway, wise mind. A clear understanding combined with expansive connection to something larger. That's interesting. A mystical knowing. Just as a side note, I remember reading someone who was talking about the centers, but like our consciousness or our knowledge comes from our like desktop computer. And it's got a lot of knowledge, a lot of wisdom there. But if you can plug it into the mainframe, or maybe these days, artificial intelligence, you can get a great essay written better than you could write it. But if you can plug into the cosmic consciousness, a larger consciousness, then you really got wisdom. So maybe there's something that all of us can do. All right. Any 5s who would be come out of hiding and share with us? What do you think? Where does your authority come from?
I'll go.
Yeah.
Michelle, I think you hit the nail on the head about the knowledge thing. That was my first thought.
Yep.
I also thought knowledge plus experience, and
Yeah.
that would be wisdom. And so I think wisdom is the other word that really jumps into mind.
Yep.
The thing I would add, and you kind of talked a little bit around this about the bigger picture, I think my authority often comes to that I have vision. Because I have the knowledge and experience, I have a vision of this is how it could be. This is how it should be. I see things. And I've realized as I get older that other people don't have that vision, or the vision doesn't come from the same places that my vision comes from. So that I have that vision, but then I can explain it given all the knowledge and all the experiences backed up with the wisdom. I think that vision piece is important in my authority.
That's nice. Yeah. Not quite the same, but I think of Ken Wilber, talking about a vision, but it's kind of like he's got a paradigm that includes all paradigms. He's got a book called A Theory of Everything. And so a big picture is a picture that kind of can cover all the bases.
Yeah.
With vision, that kind of vision.
And seeing those connections, I mean, that same idea, like I have
Yeah.
like connections to everything because all the things I've
Right.
read, all the things I know. So it's that big sense of connections and how things all fit together. And I often, will bring in a resource. Somebody's like, what does that have to do with this? It's like, oh, everything. It's all connected.
Yeah. Of course, sometimes we see connections where there aren't any, but we'll pass over there. Like sixes see danger where there isn't any, so, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Michelle. Any other fives want to toss in your 2 cents? We don't want to ask for more than that. 2 cents is plenty. All right. Well, now we come to the sixes. And this is really kind of interesting. So we'll see what the sixes have to say. So some sixes said their authority comes from the Holy Spirit. And I don't know if you could reinterpret that as comes from essence, comes from your true nature, your authentic self. I don't know. So sixes say my sense of authority comes from intuition, spirit. I just seem to know things. I was introduced in university at the idea of mystery as a way of knowing. I believe that my authority lies in what I trust or want to trust. Another six said a self-preservation six. I kind of look around for external affirmation, but my deep core relies on my deep knowing, Holy Spirit, perhaps. Inner guidance, highest self, connected to a source of energy. It's a felt sense. It's a knowing and not a thought. It holds steady. It does not waver. So it's kind of like as opposed to the doubting part of the sixes. But so I'm still wondering, so is it the authority still coming from somewhere else? Not your authority, but it's this God's authority, the Spirit's authority. Another six says, I can trust the Spirit working within me. So maybe it's allowing the authority of the divine God, the universe, to come through me. So you're like this reed of God, or you are a conduit for this divine energy, or you are like a flute and God plays music through you. So, but the authority, you are like a channel for that authority. Nothing wrong with that. I can trust the Spirit walking in me, trusting myself, trusting God's goodness and welcoming. Other sixes talk about being capable and competent. So going down to the 3, being reliable, dedicated, steadfast. That's nice. You can count on 3s in that sense. That gives them some authority. Knowing that ultimate love and goodness are inside of me and accessible. And God's love means all will be well, all will be made right in the world. So sixes, what do you think about all this? Where's your authority come from? You who look to external authority, well, I don't know. Jerry, you tell me where my authority comes from. I don't know.
I'm willing to share. My name's Hannah.
Hi, Hannah.
Hi. I think what I heard in that, or what I resonate within that, is that my authority comes from relationships. And I care more about what the important people in my life say about me than almost what I know about myself sometimes. And so the language of it's the Holy Spirit at work in me, like that relationship gives me an authority that otherwise I would doubt if I had to do it on my own merit. So often to like convince myself I can do something, I'm like, well, Scott and Claire think I can do it, or my husband thinks I'll be good at this, as a sense of rootedness, because my trust is rooted in those relationships. Yeah.
Okay, does it translate into trusting yourself, or does it still come from they say you can do it? They're like coaches. Atta girl,
I think
Hannah, you
it's
can do it.
less of a coaching and more of a like the encouragement of others actually does make me believe in myself.
Okay.
Yeah, I do think my inner authority, like seeing myself through others' eyes almost is helpful. To have some separation, to be able to like look more objectively than hearing my own self-doubt about it.
Mhm. Okay. There's a fancy term in self-psychology, transmuting internalization. Only psychology could come up with words like that. Transmuting internalization. So you take what other people say, you can do it, you internalize it, transmute it, make it your own. Yeah, you can do it, Hannah. Mhm. Okay, nice. All right, any other but can we go beyond 12 o'clock, or do I have to shut up at 12 o'clock? Where are my leaders?
Well,
Who's
just,
in charge here?
you know, you can go longer always, but we
Yeah.
might miss some people. So maybe if we could do 7, 8, and 9 for those who have to go back to work.
Yeah,
And then questions would be fabulous.
people here work? What is that?
I think they do.
It's a bad idea. All right, we got to do this 7, 8, 9, especially the 9s. All right, 8, 7s. Where does their authority come from? They're very positive, optimistic, gives them confidence. You know, there's a way out of this. There's a way through this. Another 7 said their authority comes from being 2 to 3 steps ahead. They're out ahead of us. They see what's coming. So their visionary gives them credibility. That's nice. They're out ahead of us. My authority comes from the gratitude for all the positive things I see. And again, with this kind of optimism, I can see around or through the roadblocks and lead others forward. That's nice. My authority comes from my idea or vision of what will be interesting, enjoyable, stimulating, and fun. That comes from someone who, when they plan Enneagram workshops, make sure this exercise will be interesting, enjoyable, stimulating, and fun. Yeah, I love it. Imagine what will go down well. Seeing in my mind's eye what I think will be pleasant and positive. As far as being an authority goes, for me, that comes from my enthusiasm and fascination. That's nice. And 7s have said, so we 5s, we see the big picture, and 7s say they see the big picture in Technicolor. Great. All right, any 7s can chime in something here.
Hi, my name's Amanda. I'm a 7.
Yeah.
Yes, I would agree with vision in Technicolor.
Yeah.
It's always about what can be.
Yes.
And there's always an exploratory piece to it. That's part of the fun of learning a different way of doing something.
Yes.
That leads the charge forward.
Okay. So it's just real quick, lead the charge forward. So where's
So you have a
authority?
vision about you can see clearly where something can go, the possibility of something.
Yes.
And
okay.
so you're willing to step out to say, of course we can do this. And if you tell me no, I'm going to reframe why.
Yeah, that's right. I'll
Why I
figure out
think
another
that
way to
is.
do it then.
That's right.
Yeah.
But it's always great to have 5s, to have you behind them with a great knowledge base to say, yeah, like this is a possibility. I love
right.
having a 5 with the competency behind being able to see what I'm seeing.
Yeah. And then you'll have a 6 who can tell you, well, this is where that's going to go wrong. And so let's have plan C, B, and and then you hand it over to the 3s and they'll do it. Okay. So we get all the players in the game. All right. Okay. 8s. Now, of no 8 responded to what I had my request for feedback. And I figure the 8s are saying, listen, you idiot, if you don't know where our authority comes from, there's no way we're going to tell you what it's all about. You don't get it. And one 8 in a training I was doing, she just said, you know, authority, we just take it. Oh, okay. So there's that self-assurance, that gut reaction, that body sense, you know, well, this is the right way. Why? Because it's my way, you know, just do it. So do we have any 8s who would tell us, where does your authority come from? I mean, we experience it, but where does it come from? That ability to take charge, take over. Any 8s here, or are they out scorching the earth somewhere?
You just lost Kelly, the 8. She had to go back to work.
Oh, no. All right.
Any other 8s? Unmute yourself if you're an 8.
8s are always unmuted. That's not a problem. All right. Stop the stereotyping. This is uncalled for. Okay. So 8s, I don't know, it just comes from, I'm in charge. All right. Now we got the 9s. All right. So I thought it comes from their calm, their inner peace. And so 9 said it comes from an inner wisdom about how to live a peaceful and pleasant life. Comes from their own experience. And 9 said, my authority comes from being the calm in the storm and having right insights just in time for a situation. It just feels right to me. Another 9, and this is interesting, said, okay, what helps them be an authority, or where their authority comes from, is the competence of the 3 and the self-reliance of the 6. So they're using that inner triangle there. One person said their wings are not helpful. So you got the 1 who is too self-righteous, and the 8 is just taken over. That's not so good. But another 9 said the wings help. So the 1 that puts a decision through a law court comes up with the right answer, and the 8 who says, damn the torpedoes, full speed ahead. So not again, 9 see all points of view. 1 9 said, I have an orientation towards system, the interactive, interrelated, interdependent actions of the whole. Maybe that's why this feels right. So 9s are up at the top of the circle, so they look down on us. They can see how it all fits together, and they come up with the right decision. Do we have any 9s who are still with us, who have despaired of ever being gotten to, as always, who could add something to this? So it comes from that centered, calm, peaceful place.
Hi, Jerry.
Yeah.
Scott here.
Yes, Scott.
I got on this call a little bit late because I thought the 9s would already be passed. I thought you'd start with 8s,
Yeah.
so I would miss any kind of responsibility.
Yeah. Too bad.
But here I am.
Okay.
Yeah, I would, I definitely affirm everything that you've said about the 9. Just the sense of having kind of an inner regulation and being able to bring stability. Authority comes from, I think part of the authority comes from not being afraid to wait. So waiting for the proper moment to insert yourself into a situation, and then also being able to see others in the conversation or whatever the situation might be.
Yeah. I'm smiling because I know who your spouse is, and so I can hear her saying, "What are you waiting for?"
And sometimes that's a very valid
3-9
statement.
combination. Yes.
It's an interesting push me pull you that goes on.
There you go. That's right.
Yes.
That's right. Out of that comes right action or no action. That's right. Okay. Any other 9s we got in that could share something? Thanks, Scott. Here's the old line, he who is patient eats ripe fruit. That's kind of nice. Yeah.
Mm.
Mhm. All right.
Three-
Well, let me go back to
Actually,
my
the threes
original.
would say, Jerry,
What's
the
that?
threes would say, he who is patient eats rotten fruit.
That's right. Or eats no fruit because it's already been picked by somebody else. Yeah, that's right. And probably an 8. Hey, give me that fruit. It's my tree. Back to where we started. So we've got all these points in us. So we've got all these facets of human nature in us, or the divine in us. And so if you heard sources of authority from some other style, it's not your own, that's there. So you might, want to draw on that, or give that player on your team a little more practice. Anyway, so and again, this kind of reminds me that the best way to learn about Enneagram styles is to ask the person themselves. Go to the horse's mouth.
Mhm. Mhm.
Go, make sure you go to the right end of the horse, but that's good. All right.
So do you have maybe 5 more minutes for questions if there are any?
Oh, I could, yeah. If
Yeah.
people are got any questions.
All right, let's get wild. Unmute yourself if you have, oh, look, Rosemary's on it.
How could you have any questions though? This has all been so lucid and clear. And anyway,
Oh,
Rosemary, what do you
no,
got?
Jerry, you always leave me befuddled. No, I'm kidding. That's
That's right.
confusion.
That's what
Confusion.
education is all about. That's right.
Oh, remember, perplexity is the beginning of knowledge. I love that. That's what you do for me.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so here's my perplexity question. It is about, it sounds like, everybody's sharing that they are finding their authority within their virtues. And of course, I like that. Mine would have been to tell you that as a 7, I actually don't necessarily, I guess I find it in enthusiasm. God is with us. That's what enthusiasm means. I find that authority in when I have life-giving and energy and enthusiastic. I also find it when it's just something that high side of 5, which is, the big picture, which is to say, I don't really have any, I just get a glimpse of the big picture. Nobody has the big picture. So what's the big picture? Like, I don't have it. I just get glimpses. So I love that I find it also in the virtues of both my type and the high side of 5, which floods obviously into 7 when we're centered. But I'm also wondering, could we find our authority in our vice? Is it possible to find it in the shadow side? So I really don't have an answer. I just have a question. But could we find our authority in the, not the vice, the shadow side of us?
Well, so go ahead. You're among friends. How would you see gluttony as being a source of authority for 7s?
We'll say nobody's willing to make a plan. And while 7s can overplan, Weight Watchers has a saying, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. Planning would be something that comes to mind.
Okay, yeah.
That can be a powerful thing to do sometimes.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, I would say, according to Aristotle, who I just talked to the other day, he would say virtue lies in the middle. So planning is, if it's right in the middle, is a good balance between over planning and no planning.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you want to have just the right amount of planning. Yeah. And that's a good thing.
It's just something to think about, like that, like you were saying before, can we find, not only can we give a little bit of, you didn't use these words exactly, but pay a little homage to our personality and say our gifts. And can we pay a little bit of homage to maybe the area that we all want to run from, but sometimes offers us something too.
Mm-hmm.
The shadow.
or back off of it a little bit. So rather than over planning or overindulging or overthinking or over worrying, back off a little bit, and you might hit that nice balance point in the middle.
Yes, letting that like help you work it through, or
Mhm.
using it as a point of working it through. Perfect. Yeah,
Mhm.
that's great.
Okay. Yeah, thanks. Other questions, personal testimonials, comments, objections, complaints, give them to Claire and Danielle, not to me. All right.
Well, I would say what's good about gluttony is that that's what an Italian holiday is all about. It's like, we're always proud that we made way too much food. That's just and we don't feel guilty about eating it. That's what's good about gluttony.
That's correct. That's right. That's
So
right.
let's get together for dinner.
Mm-hmm. And here, have some more, eat some more. That's right.
Well, Jerry, I think we're all leaving with far more authority than we came with,
Good. That's the spirit. Yeah.
right? And I think, as you say, the best way to learn the Enneagram is to have the styles tell you
Yeah.
what's happening.
Yeah.
And I think for verbal processors, just opening that conversation up is going to open up a whole lot more. So if
Mhm.
you have any further comments post Midday Cafe, we'll send those to Dr. Wagner and let him finish his research. And
Yeah, that's perfect.
you could appear in the next,
That's
the
right.
next article.
My next revised article. That's right. That's right.
That's very good. Well, do you have any words of wisdom to leave us with today?
Well, I'm going back to, I like that idea of that we're privileged to have certain capacities and skills, and not to be overly proud about that or overly humble about it, but just acknowledge it and use the talents that we have. And I do like that idea that, we got 9 players on our inner team. And so we tend to play the ones that we're most familiar with, but we got 9. So kind of spend a little time getting to know those different parts. I just read Schwartz's book on internal family systems, but there are no bad parts. So he's talking about, all the different parts of us. So we got at least 9 parts. To know those parts, and there are no bad parts. Nice.
Like no bad boys. Father Moquet, what was that? The Bells of St. Mary's. There's
Oh,
no
okay.
such a bad boy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He
Well,
obviously
thank you.
he obviously didn't go to my school, but anyway, all right.
Right.
Okay.
I
Well,
had
good.
a few of those rulers on the knuckles myself in my
Mhm.
Catholic school days.
That's
So,
right.
mhm.
Mhm.
Well, thank you. And everyone join us next month. Dr. Edgerton, who wrote No Justice, No Peace, is going to be in our midst talking about anti-racism and the work that the Enneagram, with anti-racism. So we hope you'll join us next month too. And Dr. Wagner, we'll see you at the IEA Global in
Well,
July.
you're going to see me virtually. I was going to go, but then I realized that I have a Viking River Alaskan cruise with my daughter and son-in-law. So I said, okay, I won't be there because I don't want to catch COVID beforehand. But now it turns out, I should say this, my daughter is pregnant and her husband, yes. And they've been trying real hard to have this happen. So I probably won't be going on that boat trip either.
No, you stay home and wait for grandbaby.
That's exactly right. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I'll be just digitally at the conference. Yeah.
All right, well, maybe we can get a fat head of you and take it with us.
There you go. Yeah. Yeah.
All
Enjoy
right,
San
everyone.
Francisco. Yeah.
Yes. Well, everyone be well. Let's thank Dr. Wagner and
Thank you, Jerry.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. This has been amazing.
you.
Thank you.
All
And
right.
congratulations.
Thank you. I'll
Awesome.
pass it on.
So exciting for them.
It's a boy. Yeah.
Woo-woo.
This fall, Jerry, or later?
In October when my birthday is. So luckily it's going to be later in October. We don't want to
Okay.
share
that's
birthdays. Mm-mm. All right.
All right, everyone. Have a
Exciting.
beautiful day.
Bye-bye, all.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for
Be
coming.
well. You're welcome. Well, it's fun that we can do that. Let's see, I gotta take.